Nonetheless, were you surprised that Micah Parsons got dealt yesterday?
I was, Mike, very surprised Michael Parsons got traded yesterday.
I see what you did there.
Shocked. I mean, talking to people in the building right after the trade, and I've been talking to people there and across the league, obviously, leading up to this. It was, as late as 2 days ago, nobody in the league really thought any sort of trade was going to happen. Obviously, teams were interested. They all should be interested. Green Bay was definitely interested, obviously, but nobody really thought Jerry was going to do it. The wild part is, talking to people in the building, I talked to somebody right after the trade. They're like, we've been talking about this. I remember it first getting mentioned to me in November of last year, like, is this maybe the course of action we should take? And we can get into the timing of this, maybe playing a bigger factor than people are understanding. But they were like, I can't believe he actually did it. Like people in the building are like, I can't believe he actually did it. And so, yeah, I think everybody was shocked. But I think you look at the difference in numbers. Jerry and Micah had somewhat, to my understanding, a closed-door agreement that involved a handshake at about $41 million. And once David Mulugheta got involved and did his job as an agent, which is to get his client as much money as possible, kind of jumped to 45. And he did his job when he got 47 from Green Bay. And I don't think, Dallas was ever going to go that high. I don't think Dallas wanted to have three players in CeeDee Lamb, Dak, and Micah paid at the top of the top. And it's just such a top-heavy roster. But if you do this trade, in my opinion, you do it, around the draft, and those first-round picks can start helping your team immediately. The 2 first-rounders don't help them at all in 2025.
James, were there other teams involved? Because it was kept pretty quiet, and could they open it up more and got more for Micah Parsons? For a couple first-round picks, and then, a good interior defensive lineman there, but it seems like they could have got a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're asking that so because everybody, I think you guys are probably in agreement that the Packers kind of fleeced them on this one. I mean, it seems that way right now. I mean, this is a Hall of Fame trajectory player. I mean, literally, he's already on that path. Him and Reggie White kind of have the 2 best starts we've seen in recent, in memory of guys coming in. And so you don't give those guys up. And so that's why you're right. Other teams were interested. I don't know if other teams were interested to go to 47. Now, we all know the legalities of these things, and David Mulugheta has his player under contract with the Cowboys, so he can't talk to other teams, right? No, he's not allowed to talk to anybody else. He can't make phone calls. And so, yeah, I don't know if anybody else was willing to get to that number, but there were other people interested, but it happened very, very quickly. I think if Jerry would have led on that this was an actual realistic possibility, like I hinted that people in the building weren't even thinking this was going to happen, if he would have dragged that part out a little bit longer, I think there's a chance he could have gotten better compensation.
What about on the other side of this? What have you heard from the people in the Green Bay building and where they sit right now?
I honestly think they think they made out like bandits. Like, if you pay for a player like this, you're going to have to pay. And we're seeing the trajectory of where the pass rusher market's going and where the salary cap's going, right? And you look at this deal and where we are on the calendar, and that there's another TV rights deal coming up in 2029, which will explode the salary cap once again. You probably think you're in a pretty good spot, and you got him at 25. This isn't paying a guy like, T.J. Watt money, where T.J.'s on the other side of 30. And so I think I think they're really excited up there to be able to do this and not have to give up Rashawn Gary. They like Kenny Clark a lot. Obviously they do. Look, what's Kenny Clark, 30? I mean, I think that's, you get younger. You have, this maybe made Gary even better as the other pass rusher. And I think now they went from being a team where you go, who can threaten Philly for the NFC? And is it Green Bay? Now it's like, yeah, it's Green Bay. Like, I think it makes you a legit contender to come out of the NFC now.
Visiting with James Palmer. James, of course, we're curious how this deal maybe impacts Nik Bonitto. I'm wondering, does this Micah Parsons $47 million really, really dramatically change now the pass rusher market, or will NFL teams like the Broncos maybe view it almost like a Deshaun Watson quarterback outlier deal, and it really doesn't impact us?
Bingo. I do think it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt Nik Bonitto's camp, right? Not in any sense. But I think you mentioned the Deshaun deal. I look more at like the Justin Jefferson deal. When that deal got done, it was considered through the rest of the teams looking to sign their wide receivers going, this is an outlier. Like, this is an outlier. We can't put that into the equation. They went above and beyond. We're not even putting that in terms of the average salaries among other wide receivers. What usually has to happen is then other players get in towards that number, right? Then you saw CeeDee Lamb get into that number, and then you saw Jamar Chase break it, and now what do we have, like 9, 10 receivers that are getting paid over $30 million? The outlier one, there needs to be a couple other ones that go with it. I don't think this hurts. But listen, the whole market has shifted. I think that's the bigger picture for Nik Bonitto. I mean, there's been, I think, 5 players to reset their position markets this offseason, or 6. Like 5 of them were pass rushers. It's been reset by Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt, and before them it was Max Crosby and Danielle Hunter. And so, like, this market does keep going up. But I don't think Micah's deal with a guy who has, I think, they're roughly the same age and double the sacks that Nik Bonitto has, really equates to Nik's deal. I just think Denver needs to be in the process, and I think this is why they're a well-run organization. You look at Pat Surtain's deal. You do deals early. That's already been surpassed by multiple corners that I don't think are as good as Surtain. I think Philly does that really well. I think there's some teams like the Ravens do that well. And so I do think that, they're going to have to pay him. I do think the sample size is smaller than some of the other guys that have gotten paid, but obviously this deal doesn't hurt Nik by any stretch.
James, a lot of expectations for the Broncos this year. You were out there at training camp. What did you see from them, and where are you at now after watching them all of training camp?
I'm with Nick Wright, guys, my buddy. Fourth it. No, I'm just kidding. I listen, though, man. I've known Nick forever. I used to go on his show weekly when we were both in Houston, and I was a beat reporter on the Texans. And so I've known Nick forever, and it was a fun segment you guys had with him. I don't have the same sentiment, but I do think expectations are up there. And what I'm fascinated about is how the skill group around Bo continues to grow, because they have a lot of faith in it, a lot of faith. And you could almost say some of it's blind faith. Like, there's a blind faith that Troy Franklin in year 2 is going to make a monster jump, that Marvin Mims, what we saw at the end of last year, is going to be more of what he can be as a number 2 wide receiver, as opposed to having to be creative to put the ball in his hands. You hope that, J.K. Dobbins can be the back that we've seen when he's healthy, and that, R.J. Harvey in his rookie year can be this. If all those things happen around Bo Nix, because I expect his jump to actually happen. The other ones were we're kind of crossing our fingers to happen, because Cortland is relied on so heavily in this offense. I think that part of it, yeah, I think they can be really good. But I have some trepidation, guys. Like, I look at it and go, can they be as healthy on the offensive line for the 3rd straight season as they've been the last 2? I mean, if you realistically look at that might be tough to do. If Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga stay healthy, I think this is the best defense in football. But I say that with an if. It's all there in front of them. Watching camp, this defense is outstanding, and I think they can be versatile. On offense, I do need to see a little bit more, and I think that's because we're waiting to see if these guys are going to take the jump. And with the Vele trade, I think that shows that Sean Payton does think those things are going to happen. He knows his team better than me, and we'll see if they do.
Yeah, 2 concerns for me. The run game, are you going to get it fixed? J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, and then what kind of production you get out of tight end? What are you expecting from Evan Ingram, and what have you seen in camp?
I've known Evan for a long time, and I really like his game. I think he does bring an element that we haven't seen here for some time, which is a tight end that can get out a little wider, a tight end you can use in motion a little bit more that helps Bo out in terms of reading defenses. My prediction, honestly, if he stays healthy, which we're really hoping he does, he'll probably be second on this team in catches behind Court. I think that's a realistic spot for him. What can he do in the red zone? To me, that's a really big added part of this offense. But I do think having that type of player, and I don't know if Sean really thinks he's a full-on joker, but like having that athleticism, that tight end, which is becoming, not the norm. Like, it's a necessity now for your offense. If you look at where tight ends are at, you get 2 in the top 14 picks this past draft. Can you get that athlete there to create some tells on some defenses that they haven't had, in years past with this offense, and specifically to help out a young quarterback in Bo Nix? Those guys are, Stink, you know this, Stoke, you know this. Those tight ends they're coverage deciphers for the quarterback, and so hopefully Evan can do that for them and probably finish second on this team in catches.
James Palmer, I'm confident you will see this the same way I do. After an offseason of runaway confidence, optimism, Sean Payton coming out, talking big talk about this team, there seems to be so much buildup around this team, not only among the fan base, the media, but also inside that room. I feel you have to pay it all off with a Week 1 win against a rookie quarterback making his first start. I believe the game against Tennessee is a must-win if you want to get to where you think this team can go this year. Do you agree with me?
I was listening to you guys talk about this when I was driving my son to school. Like, it's not a must-win. I wouldn't say that.
But
it would be deflating. Now, what I would say is Sean Payton's doing his job, which is I think he does a tremendous job with that locker room and tremendous job with building the culture of that locker room. It would be very deflating to this fan base and to the hype that's happened this entire offseason. If he's a really good coach, like I think he is, it won't nearly be as deflating to that locker room. You know what I mean? It won't nearly be as deflating to that locker room heading into the Colts game in Week 2, because if they lose it and then they just mow down the Colts in Week 2, which you very well could do, I think that alleviates the loss in Week 1 a little bit. But as tight as this AFC West is going to be, I mean, the thing that the Chiefs never do is they never lose games that they're supposed to win. And if you want to get in that type of group where you just don't lose those type of games, like it's a rookie quarterback who's nobody's talking about on the Titans team that's trying to flip it, like, yeah, you should win those games. But I don't think it would be as deflating inside that locker room as it would be for Broncos country, and all of us that root for this team.
I will take that as a 100% endorsement of what I had to say earlier. Thank you, James.
Of course, yeah. And then you say goodbye. I got you, Mike.
No.
Yeah.
We'll revisit this on Friday when we're only 48 hours away from the game. We'll see how everybody's thinking 1 week from now. I'll be curious to see that. All right, James. Thanks, pal.
Okay.